It is a beautiful day, and Shadow and I are taking advantage of it. We are rockhounding at the eastern edge of the Mohave Desert in what is known as the Joshua Tree National Landmark. And you can understand why it's called the Joshua Tree National Landmark, because it's full of Dr. Seuss looking like Joshua trees, which I think are just the most amazing trees in the world. But even equally amazing is what I'm walking on. There is such a variety of different types of rocks out here. A lot of quartz based, there is calcite based, there's volcanic, and I mean just so many different colors and minerals. It's spectacular. What we're standing on is really the alluvial fan of those mountains up there. So whatever originated up there over the many years has moved down the mountain, and we're walking on it now. And there's a lot of mines up in those mountains, a lot of minerals. I've been up there. I have found azurite, I found malachite. There's a copper and a silver mine up there. It's very rich, mineral rich area. And we're on top of what has, over the many years, made its way down to this valley floor. And let's see what we can find. There's a lot of this beautiful, this is just a small sample, but white quartz, and the same thing with a bluish tint. There's one right there that it's got some other things mixed in with it, but it has a kind of a bluish tint to it. Well, this is interesting. Look at those big crystals in there. Looks like it formed inside of a host, and I would think kind of looks like it was a volcanic host. Really pretty. But everywhere you look, there's this quartz on the ground. Not microcrystalline. I can see crystals in there. It's quartz. Shadow, what are you doing? What have you got? What are you doing, Shadow? Shadow has his coyote vest on him. There are coyotes out here, and I let him run around. And I don't want anything to happen to him. So we're going to just take our time and walk around, see what we can find on this beautiful day under whatever little shade we can find that the Joshua trees might provide for us. This is interesting. Big pieces of basalt. And if you go up into those mountains, you can see, and maybe even from here, you can see the remnants of lava flows. This time of year, the Joshua trees are blossoming. You can see the heads on them, and they produce a seed. Now, I've never eaten them before, but they are edible, and the Native Americans would roast them. You can eat them raw or roasted. Apparently they're supposed to be very healthy. Also, the Native Americans would use this strong, barbed, I don't know really what to call them, leaves, but they're kind of not leaves, spikes, but they can be woven into baskets, shoes, and things like that. So the Joshua tree had useful purposes and was used by the Native Americans for both supplementing their diet with the seeds and making baskets and roofs also, and shoes and things like that. Up ahead there's a sign that talks a little bit about Joshua trees. We'll stop and we'll read it together. we stopped at this little sign, and this tells us all about the Joshua tree. The Joshua tree, origins of the name. This yucca has had many common names since 1844. By the late 1800s, it was called yucca tree, yucca palm, palmyra cactus, cabbage tree, Spanish bayonet, or simply yucca. This yucca was called Joshua by the local Mormon settlers. Mid-1900 sources, including author Maureen Whipple of St. George, wrote that their twisted branches made him look like Joshua, with his arms outstretched, pointing the Israelites to the promised land. Does that mean Joshua looked like that? Poor guy. He has some pretty twisted arms. I'm not sure if this video is going to be more about rockhounding or about the Joshua tree, but I mean, you gotta admit, they're the weirdest looking trees. I mean, they're just so bizarre. They're also nicknamed the Dr. Seuss tree, which makes a lot of sense to me. So we drove up the hill here and gained some elevation, and we're closer now to the mountains, and the Joshua trees are getting thinner, and the floor is getting to be more typical of the higher elevation desert. But I'm thinking we might find a different kind of rock here. There's a lot of volcanic rock, and where there's volcanic rock, there's often agates and jaspers. Not always the only way they're made, but it's very common for agates and jaspers to be formed in the crevices of a volcanic rock, where over the years water brings in silica and it kind of comes in and out and layers it, and then heat and pressure hardens it, and that's where you kind of get the banded jaspers and agates, which are all derivatives of Chalcedony. So let's see what we find here. You gonna help us, Shadow? You gonna help us out? Find the pretty ones. Again, a piece of quartz, but I like that bluish hue. Throw that in the tumbler and it'll polish up real nice. There we go. Now this is a beautiful agate. Microcrystaline, I can see banding. That is somewhat translucent. You can see the outer rough edges of what was the host. That's a beautiful agate. Okay, that's what I would like to find. The quartz is nice, it polishes up, but I've gathered up so many pieces of quartz over the years, but it's the agates and jaspers that I like to go after. Let's see if we can find some more. And agate and jaspers are microcrystalline silica. Shadow, what are you doing? He's gonna be all dirty again. Limbs. I think that's just a nice, pretty piece of quartz. What a beautiful piece of quartz. I'm gonna take it. Shadow, you're not helping. Look for the pretty rocks. There's a great YouTube channel on rockhounding. Currently rockhounding. It's called Currently Rockhounding. I learn a lot from that guy, and he has a couple of videos on agates, jaspers, quartz, chalcedony, how to identify them, and it's worth looking into if you're interested. You may already know about him. He's got a lot of followers. He really knows his stuff. That's just a beautiful, beautiful stone. I mean, I would call it a quartz, but if you look really closely at it, it looks microcrystalline and somewhat translucent. I'm very curious as to what you think. Are things starting to look like agates to me when they're really quartz because I want them to look like agates? Finding the rocks, the jaspers, the agates, the chalcedony, and the other things that you might be out looking for is great. That's what we're out doing, right? But what's really fun is just the process of looking for them. That's a jasper. That's a jasper right there. Waxy microcrystalline. That's a beautiful jasper. Well, what do you know? Okay, now we found a jasper. This is a good area. Okay, what do we have here? That is microcrystalline, very thin, but that's an agate. So if there's an agate here, are there others? Here, agate, 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 agate. Here, agate, agate, agate. Make yourself known. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay. That is an agate. Do you see the banding? That's a perfect agate. Okay, that's great. See the banding? It's definitely microcrystalline. You can see the host it formed in. That is a beautiful specimen of an agate. All right, guys, success again. We found another beautiful agate. All right, we know we're in the right area. But what I also wanted to say is, yeah, finding what we're looking for is one thing, but finding, just the process of out finding, well, that's probably really more important than being successful. Just getting out, enjoying the beautiful nature that God has created and given to us to enjoy and protect and take care of. Just getting out and enjoying it and learning. I'm not a professional geologist. I took one geology class in college. I learned a lot, and I keep reading books and things like that, but I'm not a geologist, so this is all a journey of exploration.